Welcome to the Signals Music live stream. Coming at you live from a frozen tundra known as Chicago, Illinois, or near Chicago, Illinois. That's what everyone from my town says, is when I say, oh yeah, I live in Chicago, even though we live nowhere near Chicago. Just tangentially close to it. So, hello everybody. Good to see some familiar faces. Eric, and we got the whole gang here. Eric, Video Spell, Anthony, Monster Montage, G Hooks, Davey Jr., screw YouTube, you know, for the kids. I'll censor it. Okan, Ronnie, and Video Spell. Excellent. Yeah, I whipped up a new waiting screen earlier today. There were some problems with my webcam that obviously probably some of you have seen before, where when I switch to this mode, things are just not, oh, you know what? Something's a little weird here. When I switch to this mode, then something's wrong with like the size of the webcam. You know, it doesn't work out so well. So let's find out what's going on here. There might be some issues here. Now that I'm seeing, it looks like I'm actually having a few, like, why is my music software open? Okay, anyways, hello everybody. We've got some awesome questions here, and I'm planning on answering them all if everything works correctly. We're about to find out. Let's see here. See, I don't understand. Yeah, there's something wrong here. This might be a little hard for us to... Yeah, you know what? There's going to be a problem with the way I read questions here. I'm just now realizing, because I did all this stuff to my stream. So it's going to be a little weird here today. I could try and fix it, but that would be really boring to watch you all try to fix it. Let me try really, really, really quick. Let's see what I can do here. Because right now, you see Urkel, right? I'm sure you're all seeing Urkel on my screen. I don't have that screen up right now. Why is Urkel up there? Like, that's not supposed to be what's up there. So let's see if I can change this here really quick. 1 second. Technical difficulties. I would play you a song, but my hands are a little filled up right now. So let's see here. Play capture. Video capture. We're going to try to add something in here. Nope, that's not right either. Okay, that looks good. That seems better. We may have gotten somewhere. Yeah, hey, I don't see Urkel anymore. Okay, we're in business. That means we should also be able to see this. Yeah, woo, we did it. Okay, so now let's get to the questions. We've got a lot of good questions here, and the first one is from Pedro Pardal. Pedro's asking, hey, Jake, I'm a big fan of Opeth, and these guys have a very odd way of composition, which I really love. At the end of the song Burden, there's an acoustic section which sounds, let's say, different. Can you please comment? What's really that from a composition perspective, scales, etc.? So, Pedro, I did listen to the song, and there's some cool stuff going on there at the end of the song. What I would suggest you to think about is mainly minor. It's mostly the minor scale, and what I'm going to do is get rid of a lot of that epic reverb that's on here. I don't think I need all of that stuff going on. So let's just switch to this instead. Yeah, that's better. So, like, think of just regular A minor scale. And then you can't think of A minor without thinking of the E major chord. Right, that's the dominant chord of A minor. So that's kind of what's going on there. Now, what is happening scale-wise on top is a combination of just butt rock pentatonics, right? Pentatonic minor has a flat 7, and that flat 7 doesn't really help out when the E major comes around. It just kind of, I mean, it works, but it doesn't assist it in any way. So they're kind of doing that. They're just kind of butt rocking some pentatonics on top of it, but then at the end, getting a little bit of harmonic minor as well. But I really am just hearing those two things. I'm hearing like, harmonic minor and pentatonic minor, and then at the end, everything just kind of gets detuned. So I think it's fairly simple, actually, just that last part. It's very enjoyable. And then I think they're like detuning the instruments as things are happening, which is pretty weird. It's pretty, I could honestly imagine them like detuning the tuning pegs while the recording session is happening, which is pretty odd. So So yeah, let's see here. I'm going to keep going. We got some questions here from Lusk Luther. Lusk Luther has 4 excellent questions. The first one, I read that chord progressions like 3 minor to 4 major is the distinctive chord progression for the Phrygian mode. Of course, there can be others too. What are such chord progressions for Aeolian and Ionian modes respectively, or it doesn't matter? Well, to answer this question, Lusk, what I'd like to take a look at is just something like a 1 chord. A 1 chord is not distinctively anything, right? We can't say, oh, that means minor. So like A minor. This just means A, C, E, right? So think of all the scales that have A, C, and E in it. A minor has an A, C, and E in it. I could be an A Dorian. I could be an A Phrygian, right? So when we talk about a distinctively Phrygian chord progression, we're talking about something that really kind of gets the point across in just a few chords. There's not like a rule for this. It's just a suggestion. It's just, something like 1 to flat 2 major, which is the exact same thing that you were talking about. What I'm doing is this, 1 to flat 2 major. That's the same thing as 3 to 4, right? That's the exact same chord progression. And that to me is distinctly Phrygian because it's including a lot of the notes. It's including specifically the flat 2. The flat 2 is the distinctly Phrygian note. None of the other scales, none of the other modes have a flat 2. But let's say we had something like this, 1, 2, 4, right? If I've got A minor to D minor, is this distinctly minor? Is this distinctly Phrygian? It's neither. This could be A Phrygian because A Phrygian does have a D minor chord in it. So when I do this, we're free to hear either a B natural or a B flat, all right? So if I bring in a B flat, right? So now we're in A Phrygian. But I could have also just as easily brought in a natural 2 for A minor, because this is a like it could be either or. 1 to 4 isn't distinctly anything. So I could have done, right? So when I think of a distinctly Phrygian progression or a Lydian progression, it just means it's including a lot of the notes that we might associate with that scale right away. So to answer the other part, does it matter? I really don't think so. It's just, why are we using that terminology? I think is what's important. Why is 3 to 4 distinctly Phrygian? And try to figure that out. And then you can answer this question on your own. Why? What would be a distinctly Lydian progression? What would be a distinctly Aeolian chord progression? You also asked, if we consider the relative minor of a major scale, is the 5th of that scale the dominant chord of the 5th of the parent scale? So, and which one pulls back to the 1 minor? How do you determine this? So, kind of confusing question, but let's think about this. If we're in the key of C major, we've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, right? We've got C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished. And if we look at the if we look at the parallel minor, that's this guy right here. Or I'm sorry, relative minor. Relative minor is A minor, right? So that's the 6th chord, right? This is the 6 right here. Now, if we look at the dominant of the 6, so the 5 of my 6 is E major, right? So E major is a really important chord in the key of C, right? If I'm in the key of C, then A minor is my 6, and E major is the chord that takes me to my 6. So there's E major, and listen how well it takes me to my A minor to take me to a G to resolve back to C, right? So here's like a C major, F, E7, A minor, G, C, right? So that E major works really, really well in that context. If we're in the key of A minor, which is relative, it's just as important, right? And in that case, it's acting as our dominant. But when I'm in the key of C major, it's also important to remember that I can think of this E as just this. I can just think of it as a major 3 chord. So my 3 chord is supposed to be E minor. But I can just make it E major instead. And it works. I mean, it's just a chord that works. You don't even have to think about the function. It works great to take you to F, right? Here's C major. Here's the 3 chord, E. Let's have it bring us up to F. If we wanted to be like Radiohead, we could borrow the 4 after that. Let's do it again. We can start back on C. All right, we've got our major 3 chord, E major. Let's go to our 4 chord again, but this time it'll take us to our 5 chord, right? And take us back to there. Now, when you ask which takes us back to the minor 1 better, well, use your ear for that. That's the way to answer all these questions. I'm not sure what the question is when you say with a minor 1. Like, do you mean C minor in the key of C major? The dominant will always take you back, right? So if I'm in the key of C, then G7 will take me back to C. And G7 would also take me back to C minor. And, that if we're on the 6th chord, yeah, I'm thinking about what is going to take me back to A minor. Well, E7 is going to take me back to A minor. So kind of a complicated question, but sorry about that. I'm sure you can hear that annoying beep. I need to find a way to turn off those notifications so that doesn't happen again. So complicated question, but the important thing to think about is the 5 of 6 chord and how it can also be considered the 3 chord. We'll keep going with Lusk's questions. What is your view about playing without looking at your guitar? Does it have any significance? I don't really think so. I think playing without looking at your instrument... Oops, I keep going back to the wrong one here. Little learning curve here today. I think, not looking at your instrument is fun to practice. I think looking at your instrument actually makes better practice. I think identifying the shapes and seeing what you're doing and seeing the geometry, I think is more helpful than the party trick of playing without looking. I don't see the reason to play without looking. It's very rare that actually is needed to happen, on stage. You don't want to be staring at your fingers. So, I really don't care too much about it. And I think that there's a lot of neural network growth that happens when you're practicing and looking, when you're observing and you're seeing distances. I think that's a huge part of playing music on a physical instrument, not just using your voice. You can't see the notes of your voice, but you can see the notes on your guitar. And I think employing the visual parts of your brain while you're practicing, I think that's an extremely important thing to do. And the last question from Lusk was, what is legato? Legato means smooth and flowing. It means the opposite of staccato, right? So staccato notes, really short and choppy. Legato notes, more like what I was playing at the beginning here. Really smooth phrases. And on a guitar specifically, legato usually means hammer-ons and pull-offs, right? Legato phrases refer to phrases that are just... hammer-ons and pull-offs, slides, that kind of stuff. So that's usually what legato means, or tap style, touch style tapping. So legato just means not picking or strumming when it comes to the guitar. How do you practice in the context of minor scale or major in a 4-fret box? Lusk, I don't limit my legato to 4-fret boxes. The only thing I can do for 4-fret boxes all the way through is chromatics. Right? But that gets pretty boring after a while. And it's not the most musical thing anywhere. So if I'm practicing, legato, I like to look at bigger patterns, especially the 3 notes per string patterns. I find those are really, really fun to play through legato. And I did a whole lesson on that just on my YouTube channel, Ultra Legato Lessons. So, all right. So let's keep on going here. We've got some more questions from Mateus. Mateus is saying, I saw that you commented on the Tempo Mental article by Steve Vai. Yes, if you haven't Googled that, please, everybody Google it and let your mind be destroyed. And your question is on the last article, or on the article, is somewhat on the article. Long story short, I have an idea that every syllable gets a beat and then you harmonize it, but is it really like that? For example, if my phrase has 5 syllables, say 5 quarter notes, and I play it over a 4/4 backing track, I get a polyrhythm. True. If you've got 5 even syllables, 5 quarter notes, and you cram them into something that's over 4/4, you'd have a 5/4 polyrhythm. If the phrase does not align with the backing track, meaning if I don't play my phrase 4 times for both 1 beats aligned, does it get chaotic? Now, this is already getting confusing for me, Mateo, so I'm going to try to talk about what I am envisioning when you're discussing this kind of stuff, because polyrhythm can go so freaking deep. And if you do enjoy polyrhythm, do check out the video I posted here on Patreon not long ago on composing a thunderstorm that had to employ some polyrhythms in there as well. So let's try to do this visually so we can all see what's going on here. I'm going to start real simple. We're going to start with something that's 4/4, all right? And I'm actually going to start with just a drum beat that is a simple, literal, just, 4 on the floor drum beat, and that way we can hear a steady, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm sure those are not quarter notes. Those look like 16th notes. So let's do this again like this, and let's loop this. So we have a steady 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I'm going to loop this a few times so I've got more space. Now, we're talking about polyrhythm here, and we're talking about 5s. So let's do a grouping of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so this is a grouping of 5, correct? But right now, you can see if I zoom out, this is like just 5 quarter notes, and this is 4 quarter notes. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to squeeze, this is 4 down here, and this is 5. And we're trying to squeeze this into the space of that to create a 5-4 polyrhythm. And it's as simple as just literally holding control on Reason and just squishing it, and now it works. So listen, this will be 5-4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now what I believe Mateus's question is, what happens if we continue this polyrhythm, right? We're doing a grouping of 5. It's played as a quarter note quintuplet, and it takes up 5 notes, right? But what if instead of this taking up 5 notes, what if like it's the rhythm is not going to change, all right? I am not changing the rhythm at all. What I'm changing is the pattern, the melodic pattern. So like it's only going to be groupings of 4 now. You see what I mean? So let's see if I can do this correctly. We have to turn the snap off, I think. We're still doing quarter note pentuplets, but now they're arranged in 4. And it's going to take 5 measures of this for it to sync back up, all right? Or 4 measures of this to sync back up. And then things would kind of repeat again, right? Like, look at where my measures actually are. My measures here, and things didn't start on a 1 beat. They started on this beat. My measures here, and I started on this note. My measures here, and I started on the 4th note. My measures here, and it'll finally sync back up. So I believe this is what Mateus is talking about. It's like a polymetric polyrhythm, right? Your rhythm that is in 5 is actually playing a polymeter of 4. I think this is what Mateus is talking about. So if he's in the chat, you can kind of chime in here, but it's really, 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 really wild stuff. So let's take a listen, okay? I'm gonna actually set the loop all the way over here so we can hear this entire thing sync back in on itself, and you can hear the entire loop. Right? And that's the grand cycle of 5-4 going on there. This is wild, weird stuff. And I'm actually planning on doing a giant video exploring all these kind of topics called multi-dimensional polyrhythms, because there's not a lot of resources on what to call the stuff and how to deal with it. But it's fascinating. I really enjoy playing with these kind of concepts. But, you know, think about it like this. I'm going to still count to 5. But I'm accenting every 4th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I got my counts wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. It would take a little practice to get it just right. And then, you know, imagine this wasn't every single note filled in or something like that. So let's get rid of some of these notes. Like, let's get rid of this top note. And now we have still a grouping of 4 mixed with a grouping of 5, but it's far more complicated than that. And now let's take this whole thing and let's just double the speed of it, all right? Just double it, and now we can get some really kind of weirder stuff. Like, this feels like, you know, almost wrong. Boom, 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 boom. And you can see every one of these creates the 5 polyrhythm, right? Here's 5 even beats. So, I mean, gets nutty, Mateus. And, you know, does it get chaotic? If this is what you're talking about, yes, it definitely gets chaotic. And there's actually times where I've heard this used. It's just, you can guess, it's very, very advanced stuff. It's usually like deathcore, extreme, complicated metal. But I love it. I think it's really worth playing around. It's mind-bending stuff. Just working with this, finger-picking this kind of stuff, doing it on your piano, doing groupings of 3 while it's a 2 polyrhythm. I highly recommend doing it. I just think it's very, very good for your musical skills, even though it might not be practical to play and compose with. So... all right, AJT is talking about shred. AJT wants to know if I have any more techniques such as the sliding shred in my shred video. So yeah, I'll give you a quick one. You know, my shred skills are serious, you know, nowhere near where they used to be. But I'll just generalize it like this. And I don't even have my shred pick. I don't even have my miracle pick, which is bad. But I will 1 string patterns, the key to speed. All right, if you can tremolo pick, you know, then this is a huge advantage to not having to skip strings. So I talked on the last stream about how bad my alternate picking is. And, you know, one of the great things is you don't have to worry about bad alternate picking when you're just working on one string, all right? One string, it's very, very easy to get a lot of speed going on it. So once you're just working on one string, then it's a matter of slowing down and finding simple patterns like 3-note patterns. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And speeding these up. There's a few reasons. I'm not coming up with excuses here, but there's a few reasons why this is not going as cleanly as I'd like. One is I have a little bit of latency. 2, my action is way out of whack, which is a question that's actually going to come up here. This will be a little bit easier. So that's just descending 3s, right? And then you could do ascending 3s, up 3. Obviously, you could cheat these with legato, and get a little bit faster at them without having to put in all the practice. The one I think I did in that video was a 6-note pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the idea is once you can take any of these patterns, just go up and down a scale with them. So let's say I was in harmonic minor and I'm just doing descending 3s. Oh, wait, that wasn't... Let's see here. Anthony Bianco, take it easy. Good seeing you as well. Yeah. If you asked a question in here, sorry I didn't get to it in time while you were here. But here's the idea. I'm just taking these descending 3s and I'm going up and down the harmonic minor scale. It's very sloppily, might I add. And then obviously if you could do 3s, then think about doing with 4s instead. 4s are very, very popular, especially with like Yngwie Malmsteen. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or how about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of the few 5 patterns I do, because you can kind of cheat it. Pretty bad at this, right? Definitely out of practice with my shred and my harmonic minor, and I'm going to come up with an excuse. I can't shred with a pick like this. I need those giant... You'll see in all my videos I use that one pick, and I'd have to run all the way upstairs if you want me to grab that pick. So, also, I'm on my Stratocaster, and, I guess these are excuses, because, the simple fact is I shred way better when all the conditions are right. And those conditions are, one, I've practiced recently. It's fresh in my memory. I'm working on something. I have a correct pick, and I'm on the right guitar. I would much rather shred on my ESP. The action on this thing is all messed up, and, that's not an excuse, because, Yngwie Malmsteen plays on a guitar where the action's, way off the frets. Lots of people can do it. I can't, so... That's just the truth of it. So behind the scenes of a faux shredder. So, to answer your question, AJT, think about one string patterns and ascending them through different scale shapes. What's going to happen after a little while is your fingers will start developing those little, gaps all on their own. Try it with pentatonics if you're going to get into much bigger stretches that way. Shredding up and down pentatonics, it's huge stretches. If I wanted to do something like, E pentatonic is, so... And then, continuing at much bigger stretches because of the, nature of the pentatonic scale. So, hello, Dale. You've been making some chili, watching. Good. I hope you made some for the rest of us. Jared's got a great question here. Jared's talking about the basics of outlining chords on bass and thinking about how the minor or major third defines the chord quality and how the fifth is ambiguous. Absolutely. So the question is this: if I just stick to diatonic notes, the first chord in C major is C, E, G, B, or C major 7, correct? But those aren't common, right? Well, I would say no. I would say C major 7 is absolutely common in the key of C. I want you to do this on the piano too, Jared. I know that you work on the keyboard, and just kind of think about this stuff on the piano and how much more sense it makes on the piano. You're saying that the second chord would be D, F, A, C, which is D minor 7, which is a watered down version of D minor. Yes, and I do want to say, now that I read the word watered down version of minor, I think that's a misleading, because I want to just clarify how I view minor seventh chords. D minor, the quality of D minor is harsh. The quality of this chord to me is dark. The quality of this chord is easily sad, right? But I can water down the emotion. I can water down the flavor. That's what I'm talking. I'm diluting the heart. It's no, like, I don't want to die to this anymore. Okay, this is not like a death chord anymore, but this was. So when I say watered down, that's what I'm talking about, diluting the feeling of it. But it's really important to note that we're not diluting the chord at all. We're actually adding like an extra note to the chord. I think it's enriching the chord in itself because of what's going on there, but it's watering down that harshness. So taking away the bite, I would try to just clarify there. And your question here is it useful to learn sevenths in a diatonic only sense? I say yes, Jared. I think it's really, really important to just know immediately in any key. We're in B flat, all right? What's your one chord? Well, B flat major. What can we turn it into? We can turn it into B flat major 7. What's the two chord? It's C minor. Well, we can make it C minor 7. What's the third chord? We can make it D minor 7, right? And I feel like I'm playing jazz already, right? Just playing 1, 2, 3. The 4 can be a major 7. I can go back to the 3, 4, 3, 4. The 5 can be a dominant 7th. All right, what was the 6th chord? The 6th chord would be G minor 7. I can play it down here instead, and we'll just skip the 7th chord if we wanted to. It would be the B flat half diminished or A half diminished. But just knowing that gives me like, okay, now I can write this beautiful B flat minor 7. I really liked the G minor 7. Maybe the 2, C minor 7. Back to the 1, and then the 5. So just knowing those immediately, just, like it, and it also teaches you about where your dominant is. Your dominant always being on the 5. And you already know that stuff, Jared. But I think it's really, really helpful to know that stuff. And then later on, it's using those chords as flavor chords. Using those chords to break the rules is something that I would definitely look at in a more advanced setting. Christian, who I believe, yeah, you're in the chat here, Christian. Good. So you're asking tips on finding most convenient keys to write my songs in for my vocal range. I sometimes finding myself writing a song in which the melody for vocals is too high for my own range. Me too. Besides writing the song in a different key or getting vocal lessons. So great questions here. Here's what I'm going to tell you right now. Let's talk about covering a song first, because I think that's an easier topic. What I do when I'm covering a song is I just sing it naturally. You know, when you're singing in the shower, just sing that, and then just kind of hang that around, and then find out like where the highest note is, where the lowest note is. You can figure it out later on. So for example, and finding where is your golden range of your voice. I have a great speaking voice down low. I want to speak everything down here. This is where I want to talk. But singing, like, nobody wants to hear me sing unless I'm doing like opera or something like that. That stuff doesn't show up on the radio. So what I've learned is I want to be singing if this is as high as I can possibly sing without hurting myself, I want to be singing about here, all right? I want to be singing like in a range where it's almost hurting me, but it's still coming across. And I've realized that's like that's where a lot of energy comes across. It doesn't sound too deep. It's like still resonates with people. So for me, that means like the highest note of my song is going to be about a D. I'm probably not going to sing above that. If I do, I can maybe ping an E really quick. I can crack my voice in the process. But, that's going to be just one of those notes I just, like an appoggiatura. I'm just going to get up there and come right back down. So I know that immediately I don't want to be singing above this note D. That's me personally. I know the lowest note that I want to be singing, well, it all depends on the song. I probably don't want to be singing lower than an A unless it's something for like an intro or a soft part of a song. For my sea shanty song, I sang a low C. I think I sang a low C, which I can't do right now. You're going to think I'm lying that I can sing a low C, but I can sing a low C in the morning, and I did it for the sea shanty song. So, that's the lowest I'll ever have to sing. So the first, figuring out what your range is and what people actually want to hear. If you can do that, it makes it a little bit easier to start writing in your range. And a lot of times it means transcribing your song. A lot of times it means moving things into a new key. I don't necessarily mean change. I don't think it's a good idea to always change melodies just because you can't sing it. I feel like that's almost disservicing the song to accommodate for your weakness, right? And I don't want to have my weaknesses affect the song. It's like, well, if I can't sing that, let's get somebody who can sing it, or let's make it so it's singable. And I don't mind changing keys at all. I don't mind changing a song into a whole different key just to make it singable. This is a thing I'm going to have to deal with a lot going up in the future with a big project that I'll eventually one day finish. I know that a lot of stuff is going to have to get rewritten into correct keys. So it's a complicated question, Paul, but for me, or Christian, sorry, I've learned to just kind of really find your high range, your low range, and your sweet spot. To me, that sweet spot for me is anywhere between this D and the low D. That's kind of where I want to be singing, you know? If I start off a song and just say hello at the very beginning of my song, like somewhere in that's an F sharp, right? That's above that low D I was talking about. It's and below the high D, somewhere in there. It's kind of the range that I feel like that's where I should be singing, even though I've got these great low resonances in my voice. You know, that's not pop vocals. There's very few vocals that get away with that. Barry White was one of them. You know, you can be a bass singer in like a you know, barbershop quartet with a bass like this, you know, ba 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 dang a dang dang, like that. Yeah, but like I said, that's a very specific genre of music. So, but pirates only like the high C's. That's a good point, Ronnie. Who would have thought that they liked the low C's as well? So, great question, Christian. Last thing is, I don't have a last thing. Just great question. That's the most advice I can give on you right now. I'll let you know if something else pops up. But it's, you know, I can sympathize. My vocal range, I can totally sympathize. One Rainy Wish again. Hello, Jake. I've been playing music for a few years already. Yet when playing or singing, I still find myself speeding up in the easy or exciting parts and slowing down in the challenging or sad parts. So frustrating. I get it. I love learning about mysterious scales, fascinating rhythms, and music theory, but none of that does me much good if I can't keep a steady pulse. You figured it out here, Rainy Wish. You're on to the right stuff. How can I improve this? Well, you've already started improving it by recognizing it. I can play all right with a metronome, but I would like to be able to play and sing on my own without that. And I would love to learn drums, but I don't have time right now. I get it. So One Rainy Wish, let's talk about a few things. Keeping a steady pulse isn't always important if you're just doing a solo performance. If it's just you, I mean, here's a good example. Listen to Claire de Lune, right? Where's the pulse? And like a lot of piano pieces, a lot of classical piano pieces, you know, good luck finding, geez, I keep doing that, I'm sorry. Good luck finding the actual metronome pulse. Like a lot of these pieces are meant to be played, you know, Moonlight Sonata, you know what I mean? It's not, right? It's, sometime there's, right? Then that's like an emotional performance. So I don't want you to avoid that. I don't want you to say, I need to play all of my pieces at a metronomical speed. You know, I learned this a lot from my fingerstyle pieces. Here's another example of a Carcassi study. And I always used to play this totally straight, no pauses. But then I learned, you know, we can, and that is not on time at all, but it swells, you know, there's motions of excitement. And so I don't want you to ignore that, One Rainy Wish. This is really only a problem when you're in the studio and you have to keep to a steady pulse, and you're saying you're practicing to a metronome. So good. If you're practicing to a metronome, you'll be ready for the studio environment. And if you're playing live and you really kind of, you know, don't want to throw things off, and there's not a lot of live music going on these days. So you know, that's one of those things I do feel you'll develop when you start playing with other instruments and other musicians. But being aware of it, like I said, is a huge part. And the fact that you're aware of it already helps. The other thing is learning to vocalize everything. Almost everything you should do, you should be able to vocalize it before you play it. And I think you should be able to do that with your the counting skills, right? Counting 1 Eana, 2 Eana, and stuff like that. So, great questions though, and I love this. You know, this anything rhythm wise, I think is great stuff to be considering as a musician, because a lot of people don't really consider it as much. So love this question from Jim Battle. Jim Battle, great question. Jim Battle's talking about James Jamerson's bass lines, anticipating a chord by an eighth note, right? And what you're going to want to listen to is Don't Hurry Love, and listen to the bass line there, all right? And we're going to go into this pretty detailed right now, because I really want to talk about this, okay? We're going to keep this little 4/4 drum beat going, and lot of important stuff to talk about here. So let's talk rhythm, all right? Let's talk rhythm and syncopation. And we're going to really speed this up. And we're actually going to give this maybe any other drum kit besides that one, because that sounds so bad. And let's see here. Pop kit. Here we go. Okay, cool. All right, and we're going to give this some steady hi-hats, just some really simple steady hi-hats on the eighth notes. That's not an eighth note. That's a... Oh, wait. Those are... And actually, when we want to do that, we'll just do simple quarter notes, all right? Like this. Now, the rhythm we're going to look at, I'll program it in here for us. Let's look at the rhythm. And let's do it on a bass sounding thing. And this is going to sound like it's going to be a pretty cheesy sounding bass, okay? You're just going to have to bear with the sound of the bass. But the fact that I'm programming it in means we can see it, and I think it's going to be very, very helpful for what we're doing here, all right? The rhythm that Jameson's plugging away at here, and let's see here, bass guitar, electric piano, bass, all right. And we'll do 1, 1, 2, 3. And these are kind of staccato, so we'll have to even get in the rest in there. 1, 2, 3, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 3, 4. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3, 4. So, oh, I think I got something wrong. Yeah, I did. No, I got it right. All right. So now we just got to get the rest figured out. Dum 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 da dum dum. And let's see if this sounds okay. Hey, Fudge Sauce, good. Loved this question, man. So, okay, now we've got the idea of what the actual syncopation thing is doing here. And look at the rhythm on the page. Notice that, like, there's two halves of this rhythm. 1, 2, 3, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And imagine if I'm playing a C chord in the background, all right? So we've got one chord being played in the background, all right? So let's just listen to a C chord in the background, all right? Right? Now, if I wanted to switch chords, right? Let's say, right now we've got a C measure for both halves of this. But if I wanted to switch chords, the question is, where does the switch actually happen for a bass guitar? Because right now, look what happens on the one beat here. On the one beat of this measure, there's no beat. There's nothing happening. It's a tie from before. So if I wanted my chord progression to go C major to F major, the bass player has this option. Do I switch on the F after my beat? Totally legitimate. But what's also legitimate is to preemptively hit that syncopated note before, because, you know, like it's anticipating the note. It gives you a little punch in the face, and it's completely legitimate. It happens all the time. You're splitting the measure, and this is really a bass player thing that can be backed up with the band or not. The guitars don't even have to help this out, right? Because the guitars are playing around this. So now let's listen. So that's what's happening here, but there's another option, and that's the option is, well, let's actually give it a one beat. Let's actually play the F on the one beat, and that way we don't have any syncopation. We don't have any cool little punch in the face, kind of slidey back and forth. No, we've just got this boom. We're just like plopping you down on the one beat, and we could do something like a little, you know, bump up there, which is something we hear in that same exact song. Now it's lost all its bounce, right? totally still works. You know what I mean? It completely works just as well. It's about what effect are you going for. So to really answer your question, you said you understand the function of an approach to a chord. Yes, but rushing the chord change by an eighth note seems like it would blunt the impact of the chord change. Sometimes it does. You're 100% right, Fudge Sauce, that sometimes it's the wrong choice, especially when you're trying to bring the hammer down on the one chord. But if you're trying to move to a chord with excitement, it's totally cool to have the bass anticipated an eighth note early, especially if nothing else is reinforcing that one beat. You know, if your piano comes crashing in on the one beat, it might interfere with it. If the guitar player's crashing in on the one beat, it might interfere with it. But if there's openings there, you know, like, or if it's more of like a sustained thing where the whatever's hitting on the one beat won't have so much of a percussive effect, yeah, this totally works, and it works all the time. You don't even have to have the rest of the band sync it up. But if you do have the rest of the band work it out, then you'll have something you'll have a lot more punches. You'll have a lot more of those songs where people they're punching the sky when it happens, because those anticipated notes are being accented with the rest of the band. So, you know, it's a complete matter of style, and very rarely are you going to find times where it just doesn't work. But you are right that it can blunt it, and that's why it doesn't work sometimes. It's because, like, the song was calling for a big plop, a big one beat, and you came in too early. So, but I encourage you to just explore both sides, because I think it's like you don't want to do one or the other. You don't want to be hanging out on the beat the entire time. You don't want to be strictly dancing around it. But it's like, think back to shapes and melodies. The way I talk about shapes and melodies, it should all have symmetry. It should all have a style. And if you listen to that bass line, everything is in its place, right? It's not random, in my opinion. All those little syncopations, all those little skips happen at just the right spots. So we've got Okan in here heaping praises upon James Jamerson, as he should. Paul is asking about use cases for polymetric odd time drum parts, and how can you do it without alienating musicians? So I think that use cases, I think it's a good question. One case is alienate musicians, or, you know, alienate the general public, I would say. I think the general public would be easily alienated by a lot of polymetric stuff. But, you know, practical stuff, well, I think about this, like, why would I want something to be polymetric? It's because I want I want more interest going on. I want more activity. I want more, like, you know, even if there's vocals, like, think of how direct vocals can be. Like, I'm singing to you and the focus is on the vocals and I want you to hear my message. That's one style of song. So I wouldn't want polymeter distracting you from my message. But if I want a song that has a vibe, like, think about sticking your head out the sunroof of a limo on the strip, right? On the downtown, the Las Vegas strip. Like, neon lights going past you and there's sounds, and, like, imagine the musical effect of that, where, you know, you're still somebody singing to you, but you've got all this activity. And that, to me, is what polymeter's going to do. It's going to give you more distraction. It's going to give you more, the background is alive. You know, the stuff that's happening underneath is not so much supportive as much competing for your attention. And that has a musical effect that sometimes you're really going to want to use and employ for specific kinds of songs, specific sections. And the disorienting effect, I mean, think of Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. That's obviously the most famous example of it, but there's something very psychedelically disorienting about that, almost like a lost in the desert, you know, for kind of, and yeah, the scales have a lot to do with that, and the tones too, but I think the rhythm too, it's like, where are we starting? Where are we ending? Where do we go? It's, you know, just confusion. So I think that's such a great musical tool. That's such a great ingredient to be using in your songs. Other than that, you know, creating clouds, I think it's really, really nice to, you know, faster polymeters create those lovely, you know, anything King Crimson or Genesis would do. Lots of polymeters for that very specific effect. So that's what I would think about it, you know. But it's hard for me to say specifically, Okan, Paul, with when we're talking drums. I kind of associate polymeter with being anything, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't have a lot on it other than I like it. That's all I can say, Paul. Fudge Sauce, you're saying in the case you linked, the anticipatory eighth note is tied to a same note of the one, so the bass note isn't even hitting on one. Yeah, so exactly, the bass note is not hitting on the one, and that's going to be a big part of some of those. And if you listen to it, like, the chord changes, and the thing I really wanted to hear that I was having trouble hearing is, what is the guitar doing? You know, is the guitar helping that at all? And it doesn't sound like it is. It sounds like the guitar is just doing a full measure of the one chord, and then a next measure, I think it's like the 4 and the 5. I think they're going between the 4 and the 5 there. Yeah, but I would want you to do it both ways, set up a track on your own and do it both ways and listen to how different it is. It's like, clearly the one is a better option. And, you know, like, it's just because we like the way it sounds. It doesn't blunt the impact. It actually, like, rushes you into it in a fun way, a fun fashion. So, all right, let's keep on going forward here. Diego Blanco is asking, how do you approach making music when the main purpose is to write for the sake of making music itself or making art itself? You talked a little bit about this topic on the last live stream when you were talking about Mozart. I think there might be some interesting insights, since there must be a difference between writing to learn scales and doing your homework and writing for your own artistic instruments. Diego Blanco, excellent question. This all depends on what do you consider art, okay? I don't get to tell you what the answer to this. I'm going to just tell you, I'll share with you what my definition of art is. Art is, I'll give you two definitions. Art is supposed to elicit a response. Your art, I don't care what it is, if it's a painting or a sculptor. I want to experience something. I need it to like anything. I don't care if it's a good thought or a bad thought or a mysterious thought. I want to observe a piece of art and have something enter my entire psyche and my body and be able to chew on it. And that might be like, wow, that's really sad. It might be like, wow, that's really cool. I don't care, as long as it gets something into my brain. The worst kind of art I can think of is the art that makes me go, next. Like, that is, and I used to work at, like, for the longest time, I taught at this place where there was art studios everywhere. My old studio where I did all my YouTube out of until last year. There were artists on different floors that rented out studio space and would paint and stuff like that. And I would walk in the galleries every month. I'd go to all the art shows and stuff like that. And the most accredited artist there, the one with the most degrees and publicity, she had art that I just literally couldn't look at for more than 2 seconds because it was all just so boring. She would paint like tourists, oh, here's some tourists in Chicago, and I painted them, and they've got their fanny packs on and their water bottles, and like literally it did nothing. It's like, this is something I see every day. I see people walking outside every day. So I mean, I didn't get it because it didn't elicit anything. I'd literally rather observe or digest bad, cringy art because it at least did something. It created one thought. So that's my first concept of art, is it has to like elicit a response. That's my definition of it. Secondly, my personal definition is like, something needs to get made, and it just needs to be in existence. A song about whatever, it just needs to exist. You have an idea and it just needs to get made, and there's only one person that's going to make it, and that's you. All right. And that's art. And like, that's all I care about. You made something. Nobody asked for it. Nobody wanted it. You weren't getting paid for it. Even if you are getting paid for it, like, if you need something to exist and you make it exist, that to me is art. Now, when I'm making music just for art, this frees me up because I have a very open definition of art. Art can be silly, art can be funny. It's just, what do I want to do? So I want to share one other thing with you because I think this is really important, and I'm still struggling with how to deal with it. I wrote a song one time as a joke. I do this a lot. And but this one specifically was, let's write lyrics that mean absolutely nothing, but people think mean something. So like, wistful lyrics, like a Bob Seger song, and, chords that people would listen to and like, wow, that's so deep. And I wrote these lyrics intentionally fake deep. They mean nothing. They're like cynically cheesy. And I just thought it would be funny. And I remember playing it for somebody, and she was like very impressed by it. She was touched by it. Her heart was actually affected by it. To her, it was art, and to me, it was a joke. So, and when I told her that I did it as a joke, I hurt her feelings. Like, it was not good that I told her, oh, by the way, that art you were moved by was a big pile of bullshit that I just served up for you. So I'm still struggling with that, understanding like, what does art mean and what are you supposed to do? I would say don't worry about it. I would say if you're writing for a job, do your job, right? If your job is to do something, then do your job and make it and be proud of it. Do the best work you can. It's your resume. You can go back, look at it and be proud of what you've done. But when I'm making music for art, I'm just doing what I want to do, and I try not to judge that too much. Sometimes it does combine with business. Sometimes I want to create a pop song. right? I want to create something that people will love. And I think that's fine. I think it's fine to say, I want to bake a cake that everybody's going to enjoy, as opposed to I'm going to bake the most artistic cake that no one will understand because the flavor profile so complex that your uncivilized taste buds cannot enjoy it. Like, I get it, but music can be that way. You can write really pretentious music, for the wrong reasons that nobody likes, and you like it, and that's fine too. So I don't know, Diego, this is really deep stuff, and I'm just sharing with you my conflict with it. So you know what I mean? It's just, it's a very difficult thing. I would say try not to worry too much about it, and just write because you want to write, and I mean, and then also try to find out why do you hate other art? What's the other art that turns you off? And just avoid doing that, you know what I mean? What do you think doesn't qualify as art? Then don't make that. If you really see something and you think, you know what, I want nothing to, then just think about why that happens and just try to avoid it. So here, I'll play you a verse, okay? It's more of an acoustic song, so I'll sing it too, all right? So I'm gonna have to remember here. So here's the song that means nothing. And you have to sing it with a certain kind of rasp in your voice, all right? It goes, oh, and it's just G and C add 9, of course. So, all right. Take back your tambourine. Drive home in your limousine. Well, I don't remember much. Antique buttons and a broken crutch. This old truck is past its prime. It's done seen the jury but committed no crime. The playground's empty, all the kids are gone. And everything's right, but everything's wrong. People sit and watch the Mississippi sunrise. But I know that it's alright. And then there's, of course, there's verses and stuff like that. But come on, I don't remember much. Antique buttons and a broken crutch. Like, that to me is a perfect lyric. It's got imagery, it rhymes, it's got mystique behind it, and it means nothing. I literally wrote it as like a cynical ploy, like, oh, they'll really buy into this. Oh yeah, they're gonna think this is so friggin' wistful. Oh, they're gonna cry. Like, that's how I wrote it. Like, I wrote it literally as like, let's exploit the English language. And I did it as a joke. My musician friends thought it was a joke. Like, my friends that are in on the no one all thought it was hilarious. And then I played it for just a person who's not a musician, and they were like touched by it. So that is real. That was like, God, what do I do now? Where I'm so off base as a musician. Here I am thinking this just totally sucks, and my taste is so screwed up versus the general public that, like, I need to figure out what's going on here. I need to figure out how do I bridge this gap between what I think is complete nonsense and what the general public thinks is really touching. So all right. So now that I've sang for you all, there's probably only one viewer left now. We're going to continue forward. Paul Calloway is asking, can I play us the oldest song that I've completed that I still have access to and roast it? So, Paul, I've got a ton of songs that I could choose from for this. I'm going to pick, literally, when I think of the first song I completed, I'm thinking about the first song I did all on my own. So, like, this was literally when I think of, like, I mean, I had recorded stuff with my friend, but he mixed it and produced it, and I had, I played guitar. This was, like, the first thing I did all on my own. It's called Snake Techno. I wrote it in Fruity Loops in 2006. Okay, we're going to listen to Snake Techno. Bring it up an octave. 2 octaves. And that's when I was like, oh, wait, you can make chord changes. This was my first chord change. We're almost done, don't worry. That's it. All right. So, yeah, that is the first thing I ever made in Fruity Loops. And I was like Snake Techno 1, and that's when they get Snake Techno 2, Snake Techno 3, real third techno. So here's what, by the third time, it turned into this. And I called it Evil Germish Techno, I think. Yeah. And this was me playing around with Phrygian Dominant. I didn't even know that Phrygian Dominant was what it was called at the time. I just knew that it was like harmonic minorish. So, I mean, here's the, okay, why does this suck? Let's talk about why this sucked. Obviously, production. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about EQ or mixer compression. I was just clicking on things. Let's talk about like the melody. Listen to how annoying this melody is. It's all 16th notes. I mean, that's what I did. I just drew in 16th notes and I moved them around, just drag them up. So everything is which is a real problem with beginner composers. You see it a lot, just strings of 16th notes with no end in sight. It sucks because there's no structure. There's nothing that you're like. For so many reasons it sucks. What's the idea here? What's the point? What are we supposed to be listening to? Like it was all just like, I mean, you gotta understand, but your earlier tracks are just like, you're not making music, you're just making noise. You're making music, but you're not making songs for sure. You're just, like it's finger painting. That's all I see it as. If I want to compare this though a little bit, I can probably find you something a little bit, my first official song, okay? This was first Snake Techno. I thought of it as a song, all right? But like, it was clear to me that, like, I got Reason eventually, and I remember spending months on this song. This was called Albanian Cistern, and I considered this to be, like, my first track, all right? Like, my first actual track. It's titled, Albanian Cistern. We're not going to listen to the whole song. I can post it. I'll post it on the Discord. That way you can listen to it if you want to for some reason. It is a very long intro, all right? Sound effects. This one has ideas, though. This one I don't want to totally shit on because there's cool things. There's a rhythmic hook through this entire song that I thought was brilliant. To me, I was like, oh, a rhythmic melody. Nobody's ever thought of that. Obviously, people have thought about that. But this entire rhythm, you already kind of hear it. It kind of starts off in one incarnation. Here it is again. And you'll get it again. Ducka-da-da, ducka-ducka. And then it goes all techno Viking on you. Ducka-da-da, ducka-ducka. Ducka-da-da, ducka-ducka. Boom. Ducka-da-da, ducka-ducka. Boom. Right? So this is, a thing. It goes on for quite a while. The reason I really like the song, my favorite thing about this song is this is my first big melody. This was the first time I wrote a freaking melody. And I was like, yeah, this is a melody. So take a listen. And that's why I can't hate it, There's too many little bits of gold in here. But here's the melody. Just 1, 7, and 6 chords, by the way, in a minor key. So, now I spent months on this. And then it just repeats over again. And a big problem here, it repeats all over again and nothing changes. Huge problem for beginning composers. Just looping your song, looping your section without like adding a variation, that's how songs get boring. That's why I want to turn it off right there. That's where I'm like, okay, get it over with. You changed nothing. There's nothing more to show you that second time. So I've been, listening back to your old stuff is a great way to improve your new stuff because you find out why do you want to turn it off. Right there, I want to turn it off because it's just a repeat with nothing else. I didn't add a harmony. I didn't change the rhythm, and then believe it or not, I bring it back a third time later on, but I do a bridge, I think. So there's this little breakdown before it comes back. Oh, never mind. You get the idea, right? So to me, that was my first song. That was like my first like official, like I made a song, Albanian Cistern. My second one was a song called Resultant of the Brains, which is all Mixolydian flat 6. I still really like this, and it's majority Mixolydian flat 6. Well, this might be... I was thinking Mixolydian... I wasn't very good at theory back then. So, it's more Mixolydian flat 6 and modal mixture. So you'll hear major thirds and you'll hear minor thirds. You'll hear probably major 6th and minor 6th as well. I'm not sure. But the melody that comes in, I still like the melody. I still like parts of this, but it's just too long. The big problem with this song, it's too long. Not enough changes. But, you know... This entire song should be less than 3 minutes long. With everything that I have written, it should be 3 minutes long, and it's 6.5. So I'll just show you the main part here. You'll get the idea of that modal mixture gloriousness. Harmonize. Now, at this point in time, it's probably 2007, 2008. You know, it took me probably that long to get to that point. And notice there's still no real instruments going on there, right? It's still just artificial instruments, you know, all Reason and stuff like that. It's because it took me quite a while to finally start combining my, you know, actual music with my, you know, like playing my instruments with my Reason stuff like that. And I'll see if I can show you a really early example I have of combining my guitars with, yeah, take a listen to this, okay? This is really bad. So, okay, at this point, I've got Reason, and it's like, oh, I can program drums, and I can add a guitar part to it, and I had one microphone and a really bad interface. So when I finally got the interface, I made this with Beard Stank. This is terrible. It was kind of made to be terrible. I mean that. Like, we do a lot of stuff that's meant to be bad. This was supposed to be a song about a hobo traveling on a train that, like, finds redemption. And, I mean, it's like, just it was really bad. But listen to these guitars. There's a trumpet solo. So like we wanted this to sound good, and this is how it sounds. So take a listen. To start honest, I think I'm gonna make it after all. This is how I discovered Dorian. This is literally the song that taught me about Dorian. I didn't know what Dorian felt like. I didn't know what you could do with it, and then I wrote this chord progression. I was like, oh wait, this is Dorian. I get it. Maybe there's a chance here for me. I think there might be a really cheesy solo coming up that I really like. Come on, give me the solo. Yeah. I think I'm gonna make it after all. I'm summoned by the So, I mean, what you just heard there was a real attempt at making music that sounds good, okay? Now, lyrically, it was a joke. Conceptually, it was a joke. But, like, I didn't want that to sound bad. I wanted it to sound good, and that's what it sounds like. But at least here is where the writing started to make sense. Like, here's where, like, oh, I wrote a chord progression and a melody and a harmony and a guitar solo. You know, but being able to do this all on your computer, being able to grow as a songwriter all at home in the security of your own studio. Oh boy, I don't know how else I was supposed to do it. If I had to learn all this stuff in a studio while I was paying for it, it would have just taken decades, you know, generations, to get done. So, so I hope that's fun for you, Paul. Yeah, I've got plenty of stuff like that. I've got tons and tons and tons of it, but it's a matter of finding the stuff that really represents the roughest stuff around the edges, you know. Paul has a few other questions. I'm going to answer them here before we start. Before I start spending more attention at the chat. Preferred method of reaching me directly, the most consistent way is my email, jake@signalsmusicstudio.com or signalsmusicjake, or signalsmusicjake@gmail.com. That's the most consistent one. Or psychic message, psychic transfer. I accept those in all superpositions at all times. Lastly, how do you handle guitar maintenance? I don't, Paul. When it's so damn dry, even with a humidifier. I just adjusted the action on this all on my own the other day, and here I am playing, and the action's completely messed up. I got nothing for you, man. I give my guitar to the girl at Guitar Center, who was my first fan I ever met. I went to Guitar Center. She's like, "You're the guy on YouTube." I'm like, I am the guy on YouTube. And so it was like the first time I'd ever met somebody who like was a fan of mine. And she does a good job. Her name is Aletta. So I just take my stuff in there and I give it to her. And, that's what I do. Cause I adjust like I adjust the truss rod. I'll do, simple changing strings and stuff like that, obviously. But when it comes to saddle adjustments or intonation or anything like that, or anything with the electronics, unless it's like a simple, like if it's just a solder thing, I'll just do that myself. But no, with maintenance, I have humidifiers for my acoustic guitars, my electrics, whatever. They're durable. Thank God they're durable. That's all. So, all right. I do believe that is everything from the Patreon questions. So what I'm going to do before I start talking or answering any questions from the chat and reading back here, I'm just going to say this. So tomorrow, what I'll do is I'm going to post a video schedule on Patreon. I have failed miserably at getting myself on track for producing videos for YouTube again. I've done good with doing these live streams and making content for Patreon here. I've enjoyed doing that. I've been playing a lot. I've been goofing around a lot, but I have not been as productive as I'm supposed to. So I'm going to post a video schedule. That way you can all help keep me accountable for these upcoming videos. I have really cool videos that I want to work on. They're like, I'll even tell you what they're about, in the video schedule. And I've like fully fleshed out most of them. But it's just a matter of starting to work on them. And I think I mentioned in the last one, you got to pick one thing at a time. And unfortunately, even though I said you got to pick one thing at a time, I have all of a sudden taken on way more responsibilities than I should. I'm going back to school, by the way. I'm going to go try to pursue an associate's degree. I don't have a college degree. I've taken 4 college classes my whole life since I was 18. And, it's something I'd like to do. There's a lot of opportunities that open up to you when you do have a degree. I don't think I need it, but there's just a lot I'd like to learn, and I know I'm not going to learn without being in a structured, formal setting. I don't even think I'm going to go back to school for music. I might take a few music classes. We're going to see. But that's obviously a big change for me. I haven't gone to school in a very, very, very long time. So that's going to throw a wrench in the gears, but I think I can do it. Doing the course just taught me a lot about myself, and then afterwards it's just been this constant healing process ever since I finished the course and all the chaos with that. So I don't know, I'm not worried. I'm just very uncertain about this next year, and what I'm going to do is just post this video schedule so that way I am like really working hard this next month and getting a lot of good content out this next month. But I don't know what this year is going to be, which is really weird. Normally I know what I'm going to do all year. I know what the plan is, and I feel like it would be a bad idea to make a plan this year because I feel like it could go in so many directions. So yeah, we'll see. Obviously, it's not me complaining. It's just me just expressing why and explaining why I haven't been so active on YouTube. And, I'll also be completely honest with you in this sense. In the long term, I don't see myself being a YouTuber. In the long term, I see myself, I love making YouTube videos. I love the idea of posting something once a month for the rest of my life. Till the day I'm dead, I like the idea of that. But I look at what Adam Neely does, and Ben Levin and Rick Beato. I just don't think that's going to be my thing unless I had a team doing it all for me. There's just so many things I want to do. I like making YouTube videos, but I don't want to make it my whole life for the rest of my life. I like making music more than I like making music or making YouTube videos. I like producing music with people more than I like making YouTube videos. That's the reason I became a YouTuber, is because I like making music with people. So, it's important to keep in mind that as grateful as I am for everything, there's other things that I do want to keep, afloat, and a degree would certainly help. I'm never going to be able to teach at a college university without a degree. Simply put, you just don't get in the door. They kicked me out of the local community college here. I sent this really nice email to the local professor. I said, hey, I'm a music theory YouTuber. I would love to I'd love to do a clinic for your students or talk to them about, music theory, or do a demonstration or talk about YouTube, like anything. If I can help in any way, here's what I do. Because it's been really, and in my email to the guy, I said, I take boring music theory topics and I try to make them fun. So it was I thought it was a nice email. It was a nice email as I could send to the guy. This is like right before COVID hit. This is where I sent this email to this guy. And he sends me back the most condescending email I have ever received in my entire life. He sends me back, Jacob, we are not accepting any guest professors. And in your specific case, let me advise to you that you do not refer to any music theory topics as boring. So he clearly doesn't like me for whatever reason, and he's clearly not interested in sharing with his students the experiences or the things I have to teach. So, like, I could complain about it. I could say, oh, the world's not fair. Oh, they say you need a degree and you don't need a degree. I believe that. I believe that owning a music degree doesn't make you a good musician. But I can complain about the fact that colleges treat me this way, or I could go just work with the way that the system is. The system says, you're going to have to get a degree in most of these places to even step foot in the door, because that's the way the system's built. So, even if it's not a music degree, that's the way the world works. You need that silly piece of paper. So really, 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 really silly stuff. It literally, and of all the correspondences I've had, I have never received anything from anybody that was so condescending. It was just astonishing. So I did email him back, and normally I'm very cordial. Normally I'm very diplomatic, but I just couldn't in this case. I wrote him back and I said, I said his name. I said, what was my exact phrasing? I will readily reject your unsolicited advice since, I will readily reject your unsolicited advice because treating, boring music theory topics as fun has got me where I'm here right now. So all the best. Goodbye. And normally I wouldn't do that. Normally I'd be like, oh, thank you. Just try to stay on somebody's good side, because it doesn't bother me. It's not it's not an ego thing. Like, if this guy wants to step all over me, he can. He's fine. But it was just really like, man, I don't know, silly stuff. Not every professor's like that. Not every music professor is going to be like that, but this one is. And it's a trend. Academics are like that. A lot of people really, really, really value that piece of paper, and if you don't have it, they're not going to talk to you. It's just the way the world is. So. Anyways, let me look back over here. Yeah, back to school. Yeah, fantastic. People who return to college tend to get a lot more out of it because they want to be there. Yes, I do want to be there. It's literally, when I was talking to my advisor here this last week, she's like, so what do you want to get your degree in? I'm like, I don't think you understand what I'm talking about. I just want to get an associate's. I'm looking to learn about specific things. In the long term, I'd like to learn more about software. So maybe a long-term software degree, but I want to learn more math. More than anything else, and because I really care about math now, and I never did in high school. So Okan saying you'll be calling me Dr. Jake in 20 years. That's a scary thing to think about. Dr. Jake is a horrifyingly scary proposition. Double Doctor too. Thank you for calling me inspiring. Fuck YouTube. I appreciate that. But I get inspired by other people. That's where I get it all from. This is a big thing I've learned, is that when you see people that are doing things that are just wild and really, really outstanding, things that you can't do, instead of letting that depress you, let it be an inspiration. Let it be like, well, I can try that instead. Maybe I can do what they're doing. So, yeah, damn guy does have a clef stuck up his ass. Yeah, he, oh yeah, and of course I went on a little bit of it's like, of course, I'm no Buddha, so of course it's like, who is this guy? I start looking at his bio, and his bio is like, he wrote the Purple Polka rap, and he wrote the community college theme song. That's his songwriting credits. So, I don't want to assume, I don't want to be cynical, but I have to think, here's a guy who spent a lot of money and time and effort on something, and he's mad that somebody might be succeeding without taking the same path as him. Or maybe he's one of those people that demands respect. I know that a lot of people, get into positions of power because they want power. Right? This happens in positions of, police. It happens in principals, academia. It happens in teaching. It happens in any place where you can exert, religion, any place where you can exert authority over people. Some people seek out those positions merely because they want to have a sense of authority. That's just comes with the game. It comes with the territory there. And I would like to have a backup. I would like to have a backup that's just like, oh yeah, at least I have the credentials there. And let's face it, it's not just a backup. There's a ton I don't know. Do you know how much music history I'm ignorant about? Do you know that I still don't know common practice harmony? I still don't know Schenkerian analysis. I don't even know if it's worth it. But there's a ton of stuff that people, they leave the college music theory system and they are filled with a worldview on music. And I can't empathize with that worldview. All I can tell you is that everybody that I work with that has come from that world tells me it's screwed up. That's what I can say. Most people that I work with that have come from academic music tell me it's a complete goddamn mess. And that would be a great thing to do in the long term, is revise the musical education system if it's as bad as people tell me. And if I'm succeeding on music, maybe the reason my channel's succeeding is because academic music is so poorly done. And maybe that means, I can, help revise the way music academia is taught in the long term. So we'll see. Who knows? So, it's going to be a very, very different time for me. I can already see, though, that the idea of I don't do one thing for very long. I get distracted and I move on. I've been doing music forever, but how that form takes places. I'm going to post YouTube videos to the day I die. I know that. But the idea of getting that 2 videos a week and I just don't see it's. I'm starting to see more and more. I don't think I want that either in the long term. I love everything that has been given to me up until this point, but I also want to make some plans for the future that maybe don't involve so much of that. But for the immediate future, I'm going to be trying to post every single week because I really want to get these videos done. I'm really excited about them. I think you're all going to love them. I think they're really helpful. We've got stuff about time signatures. We've got stuff about the harmonic minor modes. We've got stuff about studio mistakes. So I'm really excited about it. And I just feel like as long as I have a schedule out there, it'll keep me accountable for it and I won't goof around. And we'll see what happens after that. So we'll try to wrap things up here. If you have any other questions, please ask them now. I'm going to read through what's going on here in the chat. You used to be a teacher at university. Believe me, it's not worth it. Yeah, I don't want to be a professor, but I'd like the opportunity to teach a class. I would love to have a class a year. I love working with people. I love the one-on-one, you know what I mean? It's just so fun to develop those relationships and see, it's a great thing that I'm excluded from because I don't have a degree and I don't like being excluded from things. Nobody likes being excluded. So it's also possible the email text was read with the wrong tone. I have conversations go awry because they can't see your tone. Yes, Jared, that's absolutely true. It could have been one of those things. Communication is one of my natural strong suits. It's one of those things that I do have a natural tendency towards. I wasn't born good at the guitar. I wasn't born good at, music theory, but I was kind of always good at communication on both ends of it. And it was pretty obvious. I don't know. It seemed quite obvious that this was somebody who wanted me to feel inferior to them. I mean, the very short response and the unsolicited advice in that fashion, it's pretty hard for me to pin it up as anything else. And it's not like I'm a person who's easily offended. I'm not a person who often feels the victim. It's just, this was very unique. I mean, literally the most condescending thing I get in disagreements all the time, but this was just pure condescension. So I just want to say, out of all the guitar music teachers on YouTube, there's a reason I'm a Patreon supporter here. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate it. Are we going to get Psychedelic Snakes on vinyl when you get 1 million YouTube subs? No, Paul, but you are going to get a vinyl release. As long as I'm alive in the next 2 years, you will have a vinyl album, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I won't say that unless I believe it, but you will have a vinyl. It's going to be a progressive rock, vinyl. I've talked about this. I don't like talking about it because then it's like, when is it coming out? And I don't know when it's coming out. I'm so bad at organizing my time. So just know that you will have a vinyl, and I think it'll be lovely. I'll actually care about it a lot. Jared saying the other teacher he thinks does a great job is Justin Sanderco. If that is Justin Guitar, then he has my infinite blessings. He's like, I learned from Justin Guitar. When I was writing Psychedelic Snakes, I was still I was teaching and learning and like I am now. But I remember going to Justin Guitar all the way back then. So Justin Guitar, yeah, I mean, that's the future, man. Free information. I think it's just great. I think it's awesome that this stuff is just out there for everybody. All right, we got math in the chat. When I said I want to talk about math, I didn't mean in the chat. So, rhythm guitar chorus, G hooks. It's gonna be a while, man. I hate to tell you, it's gonna be a while, but it'll be good. I can also say that. I wouldn't make that up. Deviant Journey question: what mode would you use to create a song with a tragic comedy type of vibe? Very good question. I think maybe Lydian Dominant. Lydian Dominant has a very quirky nature to it. I would also think of minor, but with really happy instruments. Right? Minor banjo grooves. Like everything can be major except the tonality. You know what I mean? You could or go backwards. Use really, really happy rhythms and stuff like that. But minor tonality, go back and forth between these where it's like, let's say it's a major chord, right? Everything could be, bright and major, but you could be singing about the most dreary, deadly things, right? So let's go with, let's say, like, here's my 4 chord. Let's just like the bread and butter chords, all right? Like some real diatonic. And let's think about the most sad thing. Like my dog, he died today, and all he left me was a pile of shit, right? So this could be hilarious because you've got the strong, heart-touching ballad, and you're singing about this ridiculous thing. So we're talking about irony here. This is like classic contrast and juxtaposition, right? Or if, you know, like I think like really, really happy instruments and happy melodies, but it's all in minor. So, you know, that's what I would think about less, more, instead of thinking about modes, Deviant Journey, I would be thinking more about context and juxtapositions. Gustavo, thank you for the live sessions. Thank you, Gustavo. These live sessions mean nothing without people to interact with here. Otherwise, I'm just talking to a webcam, which I tried before, and it just doesn't feel normal. It's just very, very awkward. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, Justin Sanderco. I got to approve of what he's doing. All that free information out there, I think, is great. And he's still making a living off it. I think that's like the idea, and that's the kind of business model I've taken is, you know, let's give out tons of stuff for free. And that way, if I do decide to charge for something, you're going to be like, okay, this guy isn't trying to take my money and he knows his stuff. That's all, you know? So that was my business model, and I appreciate other business models like that. Okan is asking, what's a pleasant surprise arrangement decision in a song you've come across? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, a pleasant surprise arrangement decision in a song. How about the bass harmonica in The Boxer? Okay? When I left my home and my family, I was no more than a boy. That second verse, go listen to it. The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel. And there's this bass frickin' harmonica. It sounds like they brought in a duck and they tried to just like squeeze the duck like a bagpipe, like somebody mistook the bagpipes for an actual live duck. And it's incredibly disorienting sound. It's a very abrasive sound. It's a very unexpected sound. It is the only instance I have ever heard of a bass harmonica ever being played. And I love it. I don't know what else to say. I love it. I don't know if it fits there or if I've just gotten used to it. And that's a big thing about music. You can get used to anything. You can grow to love everything. When you've heard a song as often as The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel, it's pretty hard to hate a song like that. So I would say that's one of those surprise arrangements where I still to this day, like, what the hell were they thinking? Where did the bass harmonica come from? Or how about the solo from Girls Just Want to Have Fun? Listen to that key solo, that really staccato, plinky key solo. It's just so silly. It's so silly. And it works. I just don't know why it works. It's like, did we get used to it, or is it actually good? I don't know. But I love it, you know. Join our Discord group challenge and make something happy and Locrian. Oh no, Eric Stark, is that what it is? Oh no, oh no. Oh no. I might sit that one out. I've had enough Locrian for 1 year, to be honest with you. Actually, no, I'm going to have to do more Diminished here coming up for one of these upcoming videos, so. Jared Yelton, it's that I believe it's right at the beginning of the second verse. I believe it's while he's singing the words, when I left my home and my family, there was no more than a boy. But it's definitely not right at the beginning, and it sounds like a dying duck. And depending on the mix here, there's a lot of versions of that song. It's an incredible production. Absolutely incredible production. But there's a lot going on. I think there might be more than one mix. So depending on the version you're listening, it might not even be there. 40 seconds in, yeah. Yeah. Liking things just because it's familiar is basically how a lot of, I hate to say it, how a lot of Dream Theater and how a lot of progressive bands get away with what they do. And a lot of pop music, you know, if you hear something drilled into your head, you know, enough times, you're going to like it. But progressive rock, I've noticed especially, is all those, like, I remember thinking, how did they write that? And then I realized you can write anything. You can write a cluster of notes randomly, and as your band practices it tightly, and if you hear it 100 times, you're going to be like, oh, it's you're going to want to predict every little line of it. So Really good question, Paul. There's a lot of those I could probably bring up, though, off the top of my head. I'll try to think of one more. Surprising production decisions. How about I love the bass in Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. First off, Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer as a song, I think it might be one of my favorite songs ever written on the planet. It goes beyond music, and it goes into like, I just frigging love the song. I love the music video. I love every single thing about Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. But one of the brightest and tastiest cherries in that cake is the bass. Listen to that freaking, I think it's Tony Levin, and it's just boom, 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 boom. It's got chorus on it. He's, fretless sliding around. I mean, it's just And one more. This is really, 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 really subtle. The percussion section in Boys of Summer by Don Henley. All right. Listen to Don Henley's Boys of Summer. Once again, great song. Absolutely love the song. And listen to all like the drum machine stuff. There's like a drum machine tambourine that does the silliest rhythm. Just listen to what's going on back there. Like especially the tambourine. It's on the, let's see here. Yenda, 2E, yenda, 3E, yenda, 4E, yenda, E, yenda, E, yenda, E, yenda, E. That's the rhythm part for the tambourine. It's like, why would you do that? Because it works perfectly. It's just one of those things you got to spot out. So fretless Stingray played with a pick, OC2 and a metric fuck ton of compression. It's Tony. Yeah, it's just, good God, I've never wanted to like live inside a bass frequency more than it's just immediate too. As soon as he starts playing, there's so much I could talk for years about that song, about why I love that song, everything about that song, just incredible stuff. So Video Spell, there's this hardstyle track which sounds like a duck being choked or something in the intro. It's really weird, so I need to know if it's a similar sound with that bass harmonica. Might be, I don't know. The dying duck is the closest interpretation I can use for it. So all right, everybody. Well, this is we're going to try to wrap things up here pretty soon. Expect a post from me here on Patreon tomorrow about the upcoming videos, and apologies for the delay in these videos, but thank you so much for being a part of these. We have another live stream next week because I believe, are there 29 days this month? There are not. So this is technically supposed to be the last live stream of the month, but it's going to be the first of next month, and I'd like to go back to either every other week or every week. We'll see. Either way, there will be a live stream next week on Monday, barring anything catastrophic happening. So I will plan on seeing you all next week. Thank you so much. I'd like to improve the quality of these streams a little bit better because eventually I would like to do some more stuff on Twitch, but it's going to be purely for fun. It's going to be just for, I want it to look good and I want it to sound good and I want it to be educational, but I think what's going to happen as the years progresses, you're probably going to see me end up making a slow trickle of YouTube content and a lot of half-ass content, which is what I consider to be like a lot of content, where you just live stream something, you talk about something. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy the hell out of it. I think it's really fun, but I don't think it's as effective as building a video for a month. You know what I mean? So I think it would be a great way to get some more immediate content out there, and I'd enjoy it, and then I can just kind of really work on one thing a month and then continue these other weird plans for the future, whatever they involve. More on that later whenever I figure it out. But either way, thank you so much. Stay safe, stay warm. It's finally warming up. All the ice in my front is now turning into to water. It's slowly becoming a flooding zone out in my neighborhood. So Eric Stark saying thanks for the session. Thank you, Eric. Thank you as always. And once again, thank you for your help, Eric, with the Discord. I appreciate you managing and keeping that place active. Jerry, you're saying you Googled the instrument on the Boxer, and a forum post says it's a combination of guitar, dobro, and bass harmonica. Weird, right? Wow, it's 3 instruments at the same time? I had no idea about that. So Ronnie, I don't know. I think what we'll do, I think we'll do the noon stream next time. A lot of people from overseas enjoyed that. So I think what we'll do next week is noon, Okan, yeah, live composing streams. I want to do that stuff a lot, but it's like every time I do that now, it's like, I should really be working on a video right now instead of just goofing around live on the internet. And I hate that. I hate the fact that I have this self-imposed limitation on me that I can't goof around live on the internet. I would love to do more stuff like that, but since I've got my schedule and priorities all screwed up, I'm not doing it. And so I need to fix this, and I'm going to fix it. So yeah, you've got it. You've totally got it figured out. G-Hooks, thank you. Video Spell, Monster Montage, Deviant, Christian, Jared, fuck you too, Dale Lee, thank you all. I don't think there's too many kids in the chat here right now, so I think that's fine with me. Once again, adios, you're all the best. I'll see you shortly. Thanks so much, and